Today was actually a big day in the world of football. A lot of sporting activities actually took place today. Apart from the Chelsea versus Manchester City FA Cup final, there were other games that actually took place today. So we will be talking about some of those games in this video. We would be giving some facts and some talking points about the matches that we played tonight. It is important to note that Gamba Osaka has defeated Cristiano Ronaldo's El Nassr by a goal. So El Nassr have been defeated by a 1-goal margin in that final. Remember, it was their AFC 2 final tonight. So Gamba Osaka defeated El Nassr. Kudos to the 30-minute goal that was scored by Yumet in that match. The Japanese side proved to be a very strong side in that match. We will be talking later much more about that game that took place later tonight. But we want to look at some of the records that were broken into tonight's game. The match that was played between Chelsea and Manchester City. There were some records that were broken in that game today, the match that took place. There were some crucial moments in those matches. In that particular one, Chelsea versus Manchester City. It will interest you to know that in that game, the officiating was somehow very okay. The officiating was good, although it seems there were a measure of penalty calls here and there for Chelsea side, but the ref, I think the ref had really decided not to award a penalty in today's match between Chelsea and Manchester City. For me personally, I feel that there were some instances that perhaps Chelsea would have been awarded a couple of penalties in those clashes that Joao Pedro had with some of the Manchester City players earlier in the day. The match actually took place earlier in the day. That was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a very compatible match. It was a compatible game between the both sides. In fact, it was a game that Chelsea played in such a way that I never really expected that performance from them. Although the performance was not really good, but the Chelsea side I saw today was a more compact side. Defensively, they were good. They made some good decisions defensively, and then because of the clinical or the compactability in their defense line, Chelsea Football Club was rewarded in that game. In fact, because of how they were coordinated defensively, the scoreline was just a goal margin, 1-0 goal difference in the game between Chelsea and Manchester City. So Kuzanov actually made a couple of tackles or challenges or clashes with Joao Pedro. I think one of those tackle that combat between the two of them closer to the time the first half was almost finishing. I think Chelsea, I think that tackle actually looked like a penalty for me. It was a penalty that the referee should have actually given more attention, perhaps checking the VAR. I think the VAR officials actually agreed with the on-field decision of the ref. But for me personally, I feel Chelsea would have been awarded a penalty, a 1 or 2 penalty in that game. But the match today between Chelsea and Manchester City was a compact game. In fact, when you look at the player rating, you get to see that there was no side that had much upper side against the other team. Manchester City did not have an edge over Chelsea Football Club. In fact, the rating shows that it was just between 5.3, and the highest in today's game was 6.0 in the player rating later in today's match. And then for Chelsea side, players like their midfield was really poor though. The midfield was really poor in today's game. You talk about Reece James, Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Cucurella, and Joao Pedro. They had a couple of bad games. It is reflected in their player rating. Joao Pedro had about 4.5 rating, and then their defense line was very good. That was why the game tonight or earlier today showed the scoreline reflects a lot more on how compatible their defense line was. In fact, starting from Gusto to Ato, all their defense line had about 5.6 and 5.3 and 5.1 respectively player rating, to show you that the defense line today was well coordinated. It seems that Fofana had a very good game, and that pairing with Cowell was really good. I like the defense line of Chelsea Football Club in the defense line that played the match today. In fact, it was a really good one, because the scoreline really revealed that that defense line was indeed a good one. But there were some records that were broken earlier today in that game between Chelsea versus Manchester City. One of those records is that Chelsea has set an unwanted tournament record by losing their fourth consecutive FA Cup final. They are now on the same level, or they have matched. This record was previously held by Leicester City. Leicester City had an all-time streak for four consecutive final losses too in this competition. So Chelsea has equally matched that record. And then another record is that Mateo Kovacic has actually ended a bizarre. He has actually broken a record of becoming the first player in history to reach 4 consecutive FA Cup finals and then lost every single one of them. So that record has been broken by Mateo Kovacic in his game tonight or earlier today when he played for Manchester City today. And then again, this also another record that is very important is that the victory also effectively broke a 23-year 27 final win streak spanning across different major championships held by Spanish teams or the Spanish national team. But in as much as records were broken into this game, there are still some records that are still standing. There are still some records that are still standing. For example, Arsenal and Manchester United remains the most successful clubs in the history of the competition of FA Cup competition. So as cities win the match today, this victory elevated them to their 8th FA Cup titles. FA Cup titles for their club record, and this 8th FA Cup title has given them or put them in the same level with clubs such as Chelsea, Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur. And then again, Chelsea still exclusively holds the record as the only club in this tournament history to lose the FA Cup final in 3 consecutive campaigns. 2020 to 2022. At the same time, although Erling Haaland has been a goal machine, has been scoring a couple of good goals, but it will also interest you to know that Erling Haaland has equally failed to score a goal at the Wembley Stadium. He has actually failed to score a goal at the Wembley Stadium. In fact, Erling Haaland has remained a 6-game streak in the Wembley Stadium without a goal. So that record is still standing. In as much as Erling Haaland is a good goal scorer, a goal machine, he is still unable to have a goal at the Wembley Stadium. I think Haaland would have had a better chance of breaking that record in today's game. Had it been the likes of Czechia was not selfish in that game. There was a clear pass that Czechia would have just given to Haaland, but he decided he was looking for his own moment, and then he could not, although he could not score himself, and then by the time he decided to hand over the ball to Haaland, it was quite late. So Erling Haaland is still looking forward to a goal at the Wembley Stadium. Now, interesting thing in this game that took place today is the victory for Manchester City. Manchester City has really been really impressive over the years. In fact, their dominance is reflected each time they win a trophy. Each time Manchester City wins a trophy, it reflects their dominance. And now Chelsea Football Club has a 6 consecutive defeats in a major domestic cup finals at the new Wembley Stadium. This record is way back between the period of 2019 and to 2024. In 2024, they lost a League Cup final to Liverpool in an extra time, and in 2022 they also lost on penalties still to Liverpool by 6-5 on that penalty after the extra time. In 2022 again, they lost a League Cup final. This time around, it's still against Liverpool. It was a 0-0 match, and after an extra time, they went into a penalty, and that penalty resulted to 11 to 10 in that shootout. And then in 2021 FA Cup final, they lost to Leicester City 0-1. And 2020 FA Cup final, they lost to Arsenal 1-2. And in 2029, they lost a League Cup final still on extra time on penalties to Manchester City. So Chelsea are still on a 6-game defeat in the new Wembley Stadium. They have not won a match in the new Wembley Stadium, and now they have equally lost 8 games and 2 draws in 3 years. In fact, the last time they beat Manchester City was in the Champions League final in May 2021. So Chelsea Football Club have some bad omen or hoodoo in the Wembley Stadium. Will they ever be able to break this hoodoo? We are yet to know, considering the fact that next season Chelsea will only be playing in the Premier League, because their failure to win tonight, the match that took place earlier today, means that they will not be able to qualify for any the Europa Cup competition next season. So that is the game. That is some of the records that were broken and the ones that are still standing after today's game between Chelsea and Manchester City. Massive congratulations to Pep Guardiola and his team and the Manchester City board will not, we do not mention them. We are not giving enough credit for what they are doing, their massive support to Pep Guardiola for the time he has spent with them in the club. There are still some mixed feelings about whether Guardiola will continue with Manchester City, but that is yet to be decided. I think that will be decided mostly at the end of the season. So for now, we are still having mixed feelings whether Pep Guardiola would remain in Manchester City. Please, if you are watching this football news and content or analysis or facts that has just been brought to you through my channel, please do well to subscribe, like, and also feel free to share your comments in this video.